How's it going, folks? Welcome, welcome, welcome in. Well, actually, maybe I should change this, huh? Maybe I should change this one, huh? Just a little bit, just an edit, just a small edit, real quick, folks. There we go. Now that will work. All right. Okay, well, there we go. So, folks, this is H.Will React, a special. Well, this is not a special one. I was going to do a special one. That's going to be for later. There is a special. Let me get a little closer here. There is a special. There is going to be a special mainframe multimedia edition of H Will React when it comes to the when it really centers around the tendernism situation, but it definitely goes into something else that definitely is a little bit more close to me. So let me see. Are we good here? Okay, okay. It's a little bit of the game. Make sure we're good. So basically, what I decided to do today, because I was just watching this video, and I've been watching a lot of videos. Well, let me turn this around because I don't care about what people think about schools and when you pay money. Okay, so just so you know, Full Sail graduate. Call it what the fuck you want. I'm a graduate. Bachelor's degree in media communication, folks. I did it. I did it. Salutatorian. I was salutatorian of my online learning class. So I'm sitting here and I've been watching a lot of videos, and of course, for those who may or may not know, but let me just see here. Let me see if there's any more that I can do here. Let's see. Okay, we're out of that. Let's see. Is there anything else that I can do here? Any quick adjustments? Just wanted to let me see. Okay, let's see. Okay, do apologize, folks. Let me just see. So we're already doing it down here. So let me just see. What should I put up here? This is because this is all fun, folks. This is all like, but maybe because I can hardly even see the display right now. Let me see. Can I even see it? See, I can't even see it up here. But anyway, what I've been watching for the last little while is the Ashley, aka Ashley Robinson situation, as it involves Zanzibar, Tanzania, and Joe or John McCann. Um, I've been the videos that I've been looking at, honestly, have connected more to the interracial relationship aspect of this story and what's happened and what's been said, and those things have merit. They do have merit, but it gets into a situation where the entire story is just not being told. And from the very moment that this video that I was watching, that I started realizing that right from the beginning, they're letting you know that they're coming from a different angle. And when somebody takes a step back from that angle, it allowed a bigger step back and looking at the bigger story. A lot more information comes out that gives it a lot more context. It makes it a lot more interesting. You'll see what I mean. First of all, while I'm pulling this information up, I would like to give a glowing and gushing shout out and respect to Shadowed Crimes TV. I would like to give them their respect because this is their content, by the way. I want to make sure that that gets known. I want to make sure that that gets said, that this is their content. This is something that I discovered when I was just scrolling and looking at different information, different angles of this. And when I saw their video within the first 10 minutes of it, and it's a 30-minute video, within the first 10 minutes of the video, I definitely got a sense that they were coming from an angle that wasn't targeted. It just kind of laid everything out. And from there, you can kind of compare notes and information and kind of cross section them. It is it's very good. I mean, at least for myself as a journalist, I know journalists love this type of thing. So without further ado, let's at least kind of get started into this. I mean, I'm just getting to a point right now where instead of just sitting here looking at it and reacting within my own space, within my own home, I'm just like, why don't I just go ahead and react up here because everyone else is? So let's just go ahead and give it a shot. And once again, Shadowed Crimes TV, check them out, and not just because of this or splitting between whatever you want to do. Me personally, as a creator, I like to keep in contact with other channels that do great content because am I going to be doing total crime stuff? I mean, as time goes on, team gets built. We'll see what we can do with those kind of things. I apologize about the dragging. I really should have thought about this, but let's just go ahead and get into it right away. But give me one quick moment. See if I can do something here. Okay. It's only going to do so well right now, but we just got to go. We got to go with it right now. So, and maybe if I dumped some of this stuff right now, I don't need Patreon up here. And so, not at least not right away anyway. So let's just get into it real quick as best we can. Like I said before, if anybody watched my other videos, I will be going premium on this. I can't help it. I got to go and try to create here. So, or at least react in this sense. So let's go.
She posted that she was exactly where she needed to be. She had just turned 31. She had just said yes to a ring on her finger. She was in one of the most breathtaking places on this earth, a luxury villa in Zanzibar, celebrating life, celebrating love, celebrating herself the way she always said she deserved to. The photos were up. The captions were up. She was glowing for the whole internet to see. And then she never came home. Her family did not hear it from the man who proposed to her. They did not get a phone call from him, not a text, not a voice note, nothing. They found out from the United States Embassy, a government contact, because her emergency information was on file on her passport. The man who asked her to spend forever with him, the man who was right there with her in that villa, said nothing to her people. Anyways, let me tell you about Ashley Janae. You're watching Shadowed Crimes TV. We tell the stories that need to be told. Domestic violence, toxic relationships, and the lives lost behind closed doors. No sugarcoating, no excuses, just the truth. If you're new here, subscribe and join us as we shed light on shadowed stories.
They will definitely be getting a like from me, by the way.
Why is filing your taxes with Free Tax USA different? Well, for starters, our premium federal tax returns are free.
Alright, hear me out. And maybe this is just me. But I just thought about, because I was driving on my way home, I really be ready to go over the small shit. Like the littlest thing, I just be turned.
Real quick, I just feel like before right here, we just need to see this. Very attractive, right? You hear that voice, you hear that accent, you hear that aggressive, aggressive tone. It reminds me a lot of Tiana Taylor. Like her whole aesthetic reminds me a lot of Tiana Taylor. And it just right off the bat, as soon as you start hearing her talk, it's like you see, it's like when you're looking at her and you see like she's attractive, she's really attractive, but then you hear this and then you realize like, okay, see, this is the thing, and a lot of transference happens, and you get a lot of people when I say transference, it's sort of a polite way, I guess, of saying hypocrite, because but it's more intentional. Sometimes being a hypocrite is built on a lot of it looks intentional, but I think underneath it's really unintentional. Some people don't understand that what they're doing is hypocritical. That what they're doing and then to basically call someone else out, it's like they don't realize, and possibly they genuinely don't realize that what they're doing, it could be pointed out, could be called out the way they're calling out somebody else. And that's kind of, but transference is when somebody knows what they're doing. It's less about projecting, because it's not about insecurities. It's not about an insecurity. It's about saying, you know what? We actually do this, but we're going to say that you do it. So, you know what I'm saying? So that, and basically put the stereotype onto you and not onto us until the truth gets told. But, I'm just saying, main thing I was saying is that she really kind of sounds like Tiana Taylor.
It was mad people in the regular lane, and the express lane was clear as I'm zooming to that.
Ashley Janae was not the kind of woman who waited for life to happen to her. She was from New Jersey, born and raised, and she carried that energy everywhere she went. Bright, ambitious, the kind of person who walks into a room and the room adjusts. The move to Miami was not even planned, and that tells you everything about who she was. Her best friend had just landed a job down there and needed company for the drive. 18 hours from Jersey to South Florida. Ashley agreed to ride along, no strings attached. Her flight back home was already booked for that Monday, but by Wednesday she had already lined up a job for herself. She went back to Jersey, packed her things, and never looked back. Just like that, Miami suited her. The city, the culture, the energy, it matched hers. She started modeling, and she did not ease into it. She worked her way into music videos alongside Rick Ross, Migos, Meek Mill. You do not end up in those rooms by accident.
And you don't end up in those rooms through hatred either. See, this is interesting. See, this is when you have a certain media entity that takes a step back and they're not having a vested interest in the situation, we start getting the full out and out story. So we seen that a part of her come up, a part of her individual come up, that is, was through black men. Now those of us who do know, and like I was saying before, the thing that was made a big deal by a lot of other channels, and that's no offense, no shot, no shade, no judgment, but a lot of what was but a lot of what was done at that time was focusing on the interracial relationship itself. And due to that, and basically due to that, it opened up a lot of what was being said by Ashley Janae on social media about black men. And but yet now we're seeing, by somebody just taking a objective look at her history and her come up, you're realizing that she's been in music videos for different rappers, black rappers. And there was another video that I did see, this show that she seemed to be in a relationship, or at least some sort of situationship, with Kevin Gates, another black rapper. And so, this right here just kind of plays into, just, I just think that, I think honestly, it goes back to a lot of different situations that kind of feed into this, that kind of bleeds into this perspective. Like, take for example, just being honest, take for example Beyonce. Okay, Beyonce, up until the point that Destiny's Child really started to grind and was really starting to make their come up, she had a boyfriend, light skinned dude. Things happened within their relationship while things were progressing with Destiny's Child, and they broke up. After that point, there wasn't really a whole lot publicized about any relationships, and any relationships, any toxicity, anybody that she was with that had children. And but yet there were these songs that would come out and would speak about these things. And a lot of people would just kind of automatically assume, after a while, when she could really sing about things about her relationship and marriage to Jay-Z, that it was all kind of assumed that everything kind of fumbled toward Jay-Z, because there was nobody else to look at and think about, like, okay, like Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige built, what I'm saying, really built a cult following of women, and looking at her as the queen of what I'm saying, breakup songs, and really kind of calling out, or really kind of, moving on, or calling out the bullshit. But it's like, not gonna cry was not written by her. It basically tells a story that it seemed like, to me, has never lived. Her main relationship that she can kind of point to was the one with KC from Jodeci, and KC and JoJo. And a lot of time it was a toxic relationship and a lot of times it seemed to keep being revealed that it was a toxic relationship on both sides. That that both that both of them had a drinking problem, both of them had a cheating problem. And Mary J. Blige apparently also had a problem with young boys. And see, the thing about us as young men, what we look at it as bragging. He was just doing it, but telling the story and bragging, because he thinks nobody will see it as a big deal. But then you start realizing that there's some people out there that will look at that as a big deal. That a woman over the age of 18, well over the age of 18, is flying a young boy out under the age of 18 to be with her, and things like that. Like, you got a guy that you're with that's knocking on doors, and knocking on hotel doors, trying to find you, thinking that you're somewhere cheating on him with Tupac, by the way. Just saying. The point that I'm trying to make is that a lot of times, a lot of female singers will create a storyline and a narrative that makes them seem like they were in a lot of relationships that didn't work out. And eventually, either they perpetuate that, they try to craft it, or either they find a way to make it true, so it won't look like, eventually, that it was just an image that they were perpetuating. It was a formula they were perpetuating, the Mary J. Blige formula, the Khalees formula. Let's I hate you so much right now, but I've never been through hardly anything. And so when you do that, and when you feel like some of the top, I'm saying, entertainers in the world can come out and feign relationships, feign toxic relationships, feign, being mistreated to basically sell music. Why wouldn't somebody else think that all I got to do now is feign being mistreated and being let down by black men to basically fuel my story of being with a white man? See, I'm a person, number one, who believes in karma, by the way. I'm a big believer in karma. Like the energy you put out is the energy that's going to come back to you. And a lot of times it's going to come back to you with a big amount of interest than what you put out. And sometimes it could be more instant. Sometimes it could come at a time later on where you're really going to need something to happen for you. And then that's where the bad karma is going to strike. So for anybody who's been in a situation, they're pissed off at someone, whatever the case may be, don't allow don't give yourself bad karma by putting bad feelings and wishes in the air for that person or that situation or that organization or entity. Don't allow that don't allow that to happen for yourself. Leave it alone, rise above it, move beyond, be able to acknowledge what happened, but move beyond the bullshit. Definitely. But let's keep this going.
That is grinding. That is showing up and proving yourself over and over again until the people with the platforms cannot ignore you anymore. By the time she was in her early 30s, Ashley had made the shift into full-time influencer, lifestyle content, luxury living, what her community called the soft life. She had a real Instagram following, people who genuinely tuned in because she made it look good and feel real at the same time. She was building something. And looking at her page, you could tell she loved every second of it. This was a woman who bet on herself, literally, with nothing more than an 18-hour road trip as the starting point. And she won. Now let's talk about the man she was with, because his background matters to everything that comes after this.
And I find it very and I'm looking at this right now. Hmm. To Chupatulas. That's about the best. But anyway, we'll see in a second how she does because he really made a deal out of this. But I just feel like, honestly, my reaction right here is that enough? Is that enough? Like a woman living in New Jersey, just boom, all the way down to Florida, and there's no holding, there's no roots, it's just, you can say it's not planned, but I mean, come on, man. When something's not planned, it usually doesn't go. And when something's not planned, it usually doesn't turn into, unless you're trying to see. Your friend's been talking about it, making this move. You're wanting, Jersey's Jersey, Florida's Florida, Miami's Miami, and you wanna see. I mean, we're sitting here talking this of a few months ago. I seen a video, by the way, where a guy was, well, one of the guys, part of the Nelk Boys, was doing an interview or feature with Ilya Taporia, the interim or former or whatever weird shit they got going on with the UFC as far as him being the lightweight champion. But a real dangerous guy, real top guy in the sport right now. Talking about how he met his wife in Miami, who was either become already as of recently his ex-wife, but he been feeling like, yeah, he found her in Miami, and they were really shocked because they felt like, because this is this running joke, or this thing's belief that you cannot find your wife in Miami, but that's exactly where she rocket ships to, because somehow there's opportunity there. But the overwhelming opinion is that you cannot find your wife in Miami. But and again, I say that, like, me put myself in that position. My friend of mine is going to be going out to California. California is a place that I always wanted to visit, even, I'm saying, even wanted to live out there, possibly. I'm saying, if situations were optimum in that fashion, I would want to live out there. But but this person's going, and then I'm going to go with them, either just to hang out, visit, or whatever, or just kind of help them get settled in. I mean, okay, I'm visiting, but for me to go back home, for me to go work hard, set up a job, go back home, pack the rest of my things up, and go back over there to live, that says a little bit more, that there was a plan, there was a thought process about this situation, more than just, oh, I got completely whimsically inspired and moved on down here. That research, certain things are done that lets me know. See, me as a journalist, and also somebody who's going to minor in psychology at Norfolk State University. When I got accepted, I I basically am big on the mind, and how certain actions and decisions do kind of do kind of indicate what a person might have been thinking. I'm like, a person just doesn't get so inspired and so pulled in by a city that they automatically just start moving in it. Nah, they see what their friend doing, and they're trying to get into that themselves. So they seen their friends able to set themselves up. Let me see if I can set. Oh, I can get. Okay, let me get back down here, get my stuff, and get back down here. I can start. I can start earning money and living. Like, I seen, I can get in here now. Like, it was testing the water and seeing how might I do if I went out here. And she saw, and she went on ahead and did what she had to do. So here we are. But then again, let's just check this out.
Tell me how you say that.
Chikulas?
Try again.
Chikulas?
Try again.
Barack Obama said there shouldn't be gerrymandering in America. Two-thirds of Virginians voted to end gerrymandering. But now Richmond politicians want to draw maps for themselves again, and minority communities will lose their voice
Why do
under
we
these
even set up
rigged
a
maps.
system for something
Vote
called
no.
gerrymandering, folks?
Life's
Let's just think about that.
but Virginia's
Let's
data
just think about
centers
that.
are easing the strain. In
While we're
Henrico, they're
sitting here
funding
going
a
through this.
$60 million.
Let's think about why we're making this.
His name was Joe McCann. Some early reports also referenced him as John McCann, but the name attached to this story is Joe. He was the founder and CEO of a company called Asymmetric Financial, a modern cryptocurrency fund. And that name, Asymmetric, is worth sitting with for a second. In finance and in information theory, asymmetry means one side holds more than the other. More data, more knowledge, more leverage, more control. On paper, this man was impressive by any standard. He had over 2 decades of experience across Wall Street and Silicon Valley. He ran a quantitative trading operation for cryptocurrencies at a San Francisco hedge fund. Before that, he was a senior director at Microsoft. He sat on advisory boards. He had been written up in Forbes, TechCrunch, The Wall Street Journal. And in 2024, his fund ranked as the...
And this, folks, from a guy who got a degree in philosophy. And we want to keep talking about white privilege, not a thing. A guy who got a degree in philosophy, hedge fund. Like, let's just I'm gonna play. I'm willing to put myself out as the dumb guy right now, just to see, because I just got to see what is a hedge fund manager. And it says here, folks, that a hedge fund manager is a professional responsible for overseeing a pooled investment fund using aggressive, varied strategies to generate high absolute returns for investors, regardless of market direction. They make daily investment decisions, analyze market trends, manage risk, and often use techniques like short selling, leverage, and derivatives. So what you got is dirty dealers, fixers, guys who will go and try and try to work whatever, they'll put themselves at risk to work whatever shady deal they can work to make sure that the people invested can get money back, whatever they got to do, whatever they got to work their money into. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a rug pull, whether it's a, whether it's getting them into a rug pull where they can basically, what I'm saying, basically obtain a wallet, sell the wallet out, get a bunch of money, run before the bottom falls out. And those people who put real money into this are, are on the outs, and these people just get more money. That's what a lot of this stuff does, especially when it comes into crypto. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest here. Certain things aren't made for people who are trying to get money, who are trying to increase their money, like, and are not at the point where they have a lot of money to begin with. And so a guy can just decide, apologize. So a guy can just decide with a with a philosophy degree to just go and work for Microsoft, going like, okay. But again, I digress.
Number one performing fund globally. Not just in crypto, across every single asset class on Earth. This was a man with serious resources, serious access, and serious connections. And at some point, that man and Ashley Janae found each other. They had been together for a stretch before any of this went public. Ashley had him on her Instagram. Photos together.
And by the way, folks, real quick, this is what she looked like initially. This is what Ashley Janae was looking like before. And I mean, I could see about moving this up a little closer, or even going full screen. Let's see. Did that do much? Let me see. I could probably just go ahead and go bigger, but I mean, just go full screen on the other side. But I just want you to at least see. I think even from this vantage point, you should be able to see that there's definitely a difference in her overall appearance when it seemed like they first were together. I mean, I'm not sure. Like I said, I really just got 10 minutes in and wanted to react to this. So react to this particular one. I've seen a lot of videos on this, but this one really made me want to react because it kind of just kind of lays everything out. They kind of piece together what both sides have been putting in here. So, but like I said, you could definitely see a definite nose job was done, and I wouldn't say with the lips, but I wouldn't say with the lips maybe, but
Together captions the whole couple. Presence. The kind of posts that say,
and
"This is my person, and I am not hiding
Maybe
it."
the nose
She
job
was
does a
open
lot
about
for
it.
this.
She was proud of him. She put him on her platform the same way she put everything else she loved
lips
on
look a
it.
little different
Make
too.
it
I
make
do have to
sense
admit
then
that too. They
that
look
he
a little
never
different.
posted her. Not
Maybe I'm
once.
wrong.
Not a single photo. Not a tag. Not a mention anywhere on his pages. While Ashley had him front and center on hers, he kept her completely invisible on his.
See?
Ain't gonna lie, when people started going back through both of their pages after everything happened, that detail hit different. Because there is a specific kind of relationship where one person is fully invested and the other keeps the door cracked. Where one person is building a life with you publicly and the other one keeps you like a private arrangement. That imbalance, when you see it in hindsight, does not feel like coincidence. But the one-sided posting was not even the loudest warning sign. The comments were. People had been leaving warnings on Ashley's Instagram posts for months before she died. Not one comment, not a passing remark. Multiple comments from different accounts across different posts over a span of months. One comment that came in 20 weeks before her death said exactly this: "He going to kill you." She never responded to it. Another one, around the same time, read, "He will kill you, one, the slave owner." And then, just weeks before the Tanzania trip, another account wrote, "He's going to harm you. Get out." Now, social media is social media. Comments like that float around under posts all the time. And most of the time, they mean nothing. People say extreme things online without any real knowledge of a situation. But looking at those comments now, after everything that followed, they do not feel random anymore. They feel like something people in her circle, or people watching from the outside, were picking up on. Something in how he moved around her that the camera did not show. But people could still.
Now, I will say this. Looking at some of the pictures, and I mean, I don't know. But I think a lot of time people are very posy in general, as it is anyway. It's less natural. It's more posy. Everything is like we need the perfect picture to take a picture, and it's just, you start to see it a lot more. People are looking a lot more at the camera than really just kind of posing and interacting with each other and letting the picture happen, and things like that. Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, but I do have to admit, some of that, he did look a little dead in the eyes. It did seem like his affect was a little off with having, what I'm saying, a good looking, younger, what I'm saying, a younger, dark skinned woman like that, what I'm saying, beautiful, willing, what I'm saying, willing to work and improve on herself for you and everything like that. It just seemed like he was just a little bit too unaffected by it. I just, I don't know, but let me see if I can do any better here with the picture look. So let's see. A little better. But anyway. But I don't know, man. You would have to really take a look at the people who you really have to take a look at the people who posted those comments and really get a sense of where their feelings are coming from. You know, if they really are concerned about something, or were they really concerned, or were they just basically doing this because it just because it makes them feel good to kind of press this issue, so, or to try to, or to throw in the scare tactic. I'm a person who's willing to look on both sides of the situation, for sure. I'm definitely a person who's willing to look on both sides and not just simply say, Well, yeah, they might have had a point. Now, no, again, this is just conversational. This is not trying to, this is not trying to make an issue or to discredit Shadowed Crimes TV at all. I want you to know that, because this, when I react to certain things, it's to react most times to channels and people, and and people and personas that I respect and teams that I respect. That if I see something and it's really well done, you're really bringing up something that nobody else is hardly talking about. I want to bring up those. I want to show those videos to people who might want to watch what I'm watching, who might not know about this particular person. Although that person may, and again, it's not to say those person have lower numbers or the same low numbers that I have. I've been doing a lot of rebuilding and moving in different directions here. So, I have to admit that a lot of what I did was not directly pushing the brand on my own thing, you know. And so let's just get back in that situation. Let's just get going.
Bill's sense. Come to think of it, there were also things about Joe McCann's social media presence that people started digging into once word got out. His pages had associations with racially charged content, accounts tied to ideologies that, to put it plainly, do not think kindly of black people. And yet here was this man, in a serious relationship with a black woman, engaged to a black woman, on a birthday trip in Africa with a black woman. People started connecting those dots on their own. This narrator is not here to tell you what those dots add up to, but what people saw did not sit right with them, and it added another layer to an already heavy picture. So what did the public version of this relationship look like going into that trip? It looked like a love story, a real one. Joe had planned the whole thing. Tanzania, Zanzibar, one of the most jaw-dropping places on the African continent. The plan was to celebrate Ashley turning 31 in full luxury, private villa, wildlife safari, the kind of trip that makes your followers stop scrolling. And on April 1st, out in the middle of the wilderness, Joe got down on one knee. He proposed. Ashley said yes. She posted about it immediately. She was glowing. You could see it in every photo. This was the moment she had been moving toward, a life she had built from a spontaneous road trip and a whole lot of belief in herself, now including someone she was ready to call forever. And then, on her actual birthday, April 5th, she went to Twitter and posted photos from Tanzania with a caption that read, "Chapter 31, and I'm exactly where I need to be." Joe replied to that post, one word, "Me." She wrote back, "Forever." That was one of the last things Ashley Janae ever posted publicly. She was in paradise. She was engaged. She was celebrating 31 years of a life she had fought for. And by every single account from every single person who knew and loved her, she was happy. What happened next would shatter all of it. The Zuri Zanzibar is not the kind of place that shows up in nightmares. It sits right on the edge of the Indian Ocean, surrounded by coral reefs and palm trees, the kind of resort that costs more per night than most people make in a month. Private villas, butler service, the whole thing. It is the kind of place you go to feel like life is working exactly the way it should. Ashley and Joe were staying there together. They had just gotten engaged 4 days earlier. She had just turned 31. The birthday posts were up. The safari photos were up. She had told the entire internet she was exactly where she needed to be. And then, inside that villa, something went terribly wrong. Ashley Janae was found unconscious. She was rushed from the Zuri Zanzibar to a local hospital, and hours after she arrived, her death was confirmed. Let that land for a second. Hours. She was found alive enough to be rushed to a hospital, and then she was gone. Now here's the part that stopped everyone cold. Joe McCann told Tanzanian authorities that Ashley had died by suicide. By hanging. It is what it is. You can present a claim like that, and on the surface, authorities have to work with what they are given. But the people who knew Ashley were not willing to let that claim sit unchallenged for even a second, because it did not fit. It did not fit her. It did not fit the timeline. It did not fit a single thing anyone who loved her had ever seen or felt from her. Think about it. This was a woman who, within the last few days of her life, had gotten engaged, celebrated a milestone birthday, posted joyfully, replied to her fiancé's comment with the word forever. Her family said it clearly. She showed zero signs of being in that kind of darkness. The people closest to her, the ones who knew her laugh and her energy and the way she moved through a room, they were not giving that narrative any space. The family released a formal statement, and the words they chose were careful and deliberate. They said, Ashley was found unconscious in her villa and was rushed to a local hospital where her death was confirmed hours later. Nothing about this loss feels real. One moment, she was celebrating love, life, in truly Ashley fashion, and the next, she was gone.
The interview question that decides everything. What AI tools do you use? If you say chat GPT, you're done.
I'm 51.
That statement did two things. It confirmed the location, the Zuri Zanzibar villa. because early unverified reports had placed her somewhere else, in a guest house, with conflicting details about the scene that the family pushed back on. And it told the public exactly how to read the situation without telling them what to think, because the next words the family used were these. They described the circumstances as suspicious. That was their word. Suspicious. Not the internet's word. Not a theory. The word used by the people who loved her and knew her best. They also said that the questions surrounding her passing remained unanswered, and they asked the public firmly to treat anything not coming directly from them as unverified. That was a smart move, because by that point, social media had already run in 10 different directions, with conflicting details and half-confirmed reports that nobody with actual authority was backing up. But before the family statement even dropped, someone else had already cracked this story wide open. Ashley's close friend and PR specialist, Savannah Britt, went straight to Twitter the moment word got out. Her post hit the timeline like a brick. She wrote, "We need justice for my friend. Ashley Janae was found dead in her hotel in Tanzania. Her fiancé, Joe McCann, claims she hung herself. Anyone who knows Ash knows she would never commit. We need answers." That post went viral almost immediately, and it did what public statements from the people closest to a victim always do. It shifted the weight of the conversation, because when it is not strangers on the internet raising questions, when it is the people who were in her life, in her corner, who knew her privately and publicly, people start listening differently. Savannah was not speculating. She was speaking from knowing, and what she was saying matched what every single person in Ashley's circle was already feeling. This did not add up. How did we get here? A 31-year-old woman who had just celebrated what should have been one of the best weekends of her life, who had a ring on her finger, who had told the world she was exactly where she needed to be, gone. And the only explanation coming from the one person who was with her was that she did it to herself.
Well,
Here's where things get heavy, and I mean heavy in a way that goes beyond just this case. As of the time this story broke, Tanzanian authorities had not released a single piece of official documentation. No autopsy results, no toxicology report, no confirmed cause of death from any local
well, and see, and this is where the things get very interesting, and I almost want to bring in O'Shea O'Shea Duke Jackson's video to show you that in the days after after these situations now, which by the way, I'm not sure but they may speak on this. I'm going to hold it off right now just in case. But there were now emerging reports um, about there being a conflict between the two at some point at the villa. But I'm going to hold back on that information to give way to the video in case they have that. But I'm also going to say that in the days after this woman possibly would have been deceased, there wasn't just complete ghosting, complete nothing. There was Joe McCann on social media posting, speaking about the new possible waves and new possible things that are happening as far as AI and crypto and things like that, and the third and so on and so forth, whatever. But it wasn't about anything that was going on, anything about his new fiance, anything going on about their trip, nothing, absolutely nothing. So do that with you will. We keep hearing different changes. Keep hearing change ups here. So yeah, we're here. So at one point we're hearing in the room the wardrobe somehow her being able to do this was rigging this thing to the door, and then the door, and then the wardrobe inside of the room. But then before I was even hearing reports that said she was found hanging from a tree, of course, being outside. But let's just keep it going.
medical examiner. Nothing. The only cause of death on the table was the one Joe McCann himself had given to authorities when they arrived: suicide by hanging. And even that had not been independently verified by anyone with the actual authority to confirm it. So what you had was a dead woman, a claim made by the man who was alone with her, and a complete absence of official findings to support or contradict that claim. Let me tell you something, and I need you to really hear this. That gap, the space between what a person of interest tells investigators and what the investigation actually confirms, That is exactly where cases like this get lost. That is where the truth gets buried under slow bureaucracy, jurisdictional confusion, and the weight of distance. And families are left standing on the other side of an ocean with nothing but questions and a statement they have to keep repeating because nobody in a position of power is answering them. Now, where was the American government in all of this? The U.S. Embassy was involved, yes, but their role in a situation like this is limited in ways that might surprise you. When an American citizen dies on foreign soil, the embassy does not lead the investigation. They cannot force Tanzanian authorities to do anything. What they can do is provide what is called consular assistance, helping the family with the repatriation of Ashley's remains, acting as a go-between connecting the grieving family to local officials, and keeping an eye on whether due process is actually being followed. That is the ceiling. That is as far as their reach goes. And even within that limited role, here's what came out that shook people to their core. Ashley's family found out she was dead through the embassy's emergency passport contact system. Not from a phone call from Joe, not from a text message, not from any form of direct communication from the man who had just proposed to her days before. The embassy reached out because Ashley's body had been found, and her emergency contact information is in her passport records. Moving on, because I want you to really sit with what that means. Her parents, her family, the people who raised her and loved her whole life, found out their daughter was gone from a government contact system. Not from the man who was with her, not from anyone in his circle reaching out to do the human thing, a government database. And while that phone call was happening, while Ashley's family was receiving the worst news of their lives from a stranger on behalf of the U.S. government, Joe McCann was on social media, posting about cryptocurrency, retweeting content about market conditions and financial trends. No rest in peace, no statement, no acknowledgement of her existence, no grief, just business as usual. Ain't gonna lie, that detail alone changed the temperature of everything for the people following this story. Because grief does not have one look. People process loss in all kinds of ways, but there is a specific kind of silence that is different from grief. There is a specific kind of carrying on that does not look like a man who just lost the woman he loved. The man who, 4 days before, had gotten on one knee in the middle of a safari and asked her to spend her life with him. The man who replied me to her birthday post like she was his whole world. That man went back to talking about market conditions. People went and looked at his pages after that. And what they found sitting in his social media history, the accounts he followed, the content he engaged with, the ideological leanings visible in his digital footprint, none of it painted a comfortable picture.
Great, folks. You can clean your shirts.
The connections to racially charged material and far-right adjacent accounts were there for people to see. This narrator is not drawing a conclusion from that. But the people watching this story did not need a narrator to tell them how it felt. They could see it themselves. So what did the official investigation actually look like on the ground? That is where things get even more frustrating. Reports started circulating on social media that Joe McCann had been taken into custody in Tanzania. People were treating it like confirmed news, sharing it like it had been officially announced. But as of the time this story was being reported, no official confirmation of any arrest had been made public by Tanzanian authorities. No formal charges, no court date, no statement from law enforcement. Some sources said he was in custody, others said he was not. And the people with actual authority to answer that question were saying absolutely nothing. That silence from the officials, from the investigators, from the institutions that are supposed to be on the right side of situations like this is one of the most unsettling parts of this entire story. Because here is the reality. If you're the person who discovered your fiancé unresponsive in the villa you shared, you are either the most shattered, grief-destroyed person on the planet in that moment, or you are someone who already knows exactly what happened in that room. There is no version of genuine love where the response to her dying is to go back online and talk about trading volumes. There is no version of real grief that looks like complete silence toward the family of the woman you just...
Okay, so it does get mentioned. So it does kind of get... So they do kind of make sure to mention that he was posting online about, you know, so just about regular wannabe business stuff. And I'm not sure, because right now, if I'm looking at the time frame, there is about 8 minutes left on this. And with 8 minutes left, I'm not sure they haven't spoken about the fact that up until around that point, he had lost somewhere along the way. Because again, this stuff is fugazi, folks. I went to the movie theater, by the way, to watch The Wolf of Wall Street. Because again, I'm a movie buff. I'm one of those. I was one of those people that have, ever since I was even a preteen, I was one of those people that love to go to the movie and see something that I was excited about. I like to be one of those first people to go and say that they actually went to go and see the movie well before it had a bunch of time to be in the theater or get out the theater and go to the TV or HBO or go to, video or anything like that. So I was definitely a person that was big into getting into the theater and seeing things. So one of the things that I definitely went in there to see, by the way, another one was Cloverfield. I was very disappointed by the people's reaction in the theater to Cloverfield. By the way, I was really kind of annoyed. The reaction was not what I expected for that. It was for a movie that was really that good. But anyway, digress, digress. But But I would say when I saw The Wolf of Wall Street, and I remember that conversation that Matthew McConaughey had with, with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and what he said about the whole thing that they do is fugazi. He said it in the movie. It's fugazi. They don't. It's just bookie shit. It's just bookie shit. When you strip everything down, it's just bookie shit. But when you don't, but see, the thing is, you got to know when you're the house and when you're not the house. You got to know that's the thing that people sometimes don't recognize when they're doing some of the things that they do. They got to recognize when they're the house and when they're not the house. A lot of these guys that are traders, they're not the house. The trading company that they work for, like the exchange that they work for, that is the house. And the house always wins. You're not the house. Honestly, you in some way represent the house. Like as a dealer, I'm saying, like a dealer or anything like that. But when you get more to the pit bosses, when you get more to the managers and in things like that, that is more representative of the house. And so basically in this situation, Joe McCann was not the house. He didn't always win. And in leading into 2025, he wasn't winning. Getting into mid to late 2025, he wasn't winning. And what happens is, from the reports that I get, that I was getting from these other videos, was that there was a fight so chaotic, so loud that a neighboring attendant had to call had to call the staff to kind of intervene in the situation. And as that turned out, they ended up having to be separated. That by the time before she lost her life, they had a fight so bad that they ended up being separated. That right there, folks, that right there is, I don't know. These are the reports. There's detailed reporting about this woman needing a phone charger, and one of the villa staff or hotel staff, resort staff went to get her one. Dude, she was told. It said there was that he was told to return in about 15 minutes, and that's what he found when he eventually came back. Like, we got to start looking, folks. This is what they're not showing here. This is what, and no offense again, this is us as a community that are looking into information, that are looking into, these types of crimes. There are other people that are bringing out really big information. But let's keep going on here, see what else they come out with, honestly.
Asked to be your forever. None. And on top of everything else, there was the question of where Ashley was actually found. The early reports placed her in a guest house with a cloth tied around her face. The family pushed back on those specifics directly. They identified the Zuri Zanzibar villa as the confirmed location. Details were conflicting in the initial hours this story broke, which is part of why the family put out that statement asking people to rely only on information that came directly from them. The fog around the early details was thick, and in cases like this, that fog matters. Because confusion in the early hours of an investigation is where critical evidence can get contaminated, overlooked, or simply lost. Come to think of it, the jurisdiction piece of this cannot be understated. This happened in Tanzania, on Tanzanian soil, which means the investigation is in the hands of Tanzanian officials, operating under Tanzanian law, with a timeline and a process that the American government, Ashley's family, and the people demanding answers have very little real power to push or accelerate. Americans who lose their lives abroad, especially Black Americans, rarely receive the level of justice their families are fighting for. That is not pessimism. That is the documented pattern. Foreign jurisdiction, constrained embassy authority, investigations that...
It's also been said, I have not delved into that personally, but I can definitely say that they're in parts of Africa, especially in South Africa, for example, there is still a hierarchy as far as colorism goes. Direct racism, of course, but then there's a hierarchy of colorism because someone, for example, like Attila, who is, is basically South African with a bunch of other different nationalities mixed in there. She's seen as colored, which means that she's seen as a bit of a higher level than what somebody with someone who is darker skinned, more foundationally South African or full South African would be. And they're more, of course, in closer proximity to whiteness as a result of their mixed or colored heritage and things like that. And so when you think about Africa as far as colonization and things like that have been going on, apartheid and things of this nature, whites, Afrikaans, as it were, in South Africa and other things have been, they're seen as as somewhat a prevailing or competing authority within South Africa. So, something like this happens, regardless of where that white guy is from, and possibly even being European might even afford a little bit more privilege, and things of that nature. But we find ourselves in the situation where things are going to be immediately foggy, and no one's going to do a whole lot to clear up the fog. So this is kind of where we stand right now. But let's keep going.
Move slow or stall out entirely, and families left to fight from thousands of miles away with no leverage and no real answers. Ashley's family was in that exact position, navigating unimaginable loss from across an ocean, releasing formal statements, trusting the Zanzibar officials while simultaneously making clear to the public that they had not received the answers they deserved. Doing all of that with a level of grace and composure that most people could not manage under that kind of weight. So where did this leave everything? An unverified arrest, an unconfirmed cause of death. No autopsy results, no toxicology findings, no official charges. A man who publicly, visibly moved on like nothing had happened, and a family an ocean away, holding on to the hope that the truth would eventually find its way to the surface.
Whoa. What's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44. Guys, maybe just built an app.
Impossible.
Let me tell you what this story is.
And let me make sure that I also say this as well, folks. And I want to put myself in a bigger position, if I could, just to kind of say this. I also think about Shanquella Robinson, and I think about what happened to her in a foreign country on vacation with her friends, male and female. What happened to her out there? And being half dressed or either fully naked, being assaulted, looking like she was just completely out of it. Wow. Completely out of it. Not because she was fighting and now she kind of caught the worst of it, but it seemed like she was out of it even before the assault began. And you just see these people just kind of watching it and saying things, and it's just it's just a dirty way to act in a place where we're supposed to be vacationing and kind of enjoying life and things like that. But it's like all of this happens, alcohol poisoning, everyone gets to leave. Everyone immediately gets to leave the country, gets to leave this island with it being just all on her. It just she drank too much, it got to her, she died. That's what happened. And I just, so a part of me does feel like overall people go to these other countries, they go outside the United States and they do these things and these things happen. And what they count on is, and I feel like sometimes I'm starting to wonder because I'm not going to hold back any theory that I have. I'm just going to say it out because and we can vet it. We can see if it has legs, and it can become a conspiracy, or we find that it's bunk and it's just a theory. But right now, I'm willing to say that some people go to these countries, do these things, and think that that country is not going to want an international incident. So they're going to make it look like it was something simpler than what it was, or more on the person that lost their life than that somebody came there planning some nefarious event, and they're doing this to this person, and acting like this is a country where people can do this at. So rather than confront that, clean it up, and show that they're tough on people thinking they can come to their country and do things like this, they rather make it seem like nothing happened at all, and it was just on this person. This person decided at one of the happiest times of life, their birthday, around their birthday, being just newly engaged and everything like that, on a trip of a lifetime to a place they had never been, and let's kill ourselves at that point. I apologize, folks. If this thing comes a buzzword and gets, but let's do that. Let's go and fight. Let's go into a fight club in a what I'm saying, on an island where we're supposed to be vacationing and relaxing. Let's do a fight club because that makes sense. But then when everything gets looked at, oh, it's alcohol poisoning. Let's move on. It's ridiculous, folks. It's ridiculous. And I think some people just take advantage of these other countries. And even in this situation, I'm starting to feel like the privilege that white men, European men overall, what I'm saying, white men overall and Europeans, and even America, that may get special treatment both ways, enjoy in countries like this. And thinking that we'll just make it look like this, we'll basically wrap it up in so much confusion that people won't even think that it's really a murder. And so here we are. So I think there's a couple of things at play here. You know, certain countries, certain islands and whatnot, tourist places. They don't want to make it an international incident where people become afraid to go there, thinking that thinking that somebody might try to do something to them and get away with it in that particular place. So let's make it look like something it's not. It's weird. And let me be clear on where I stand. Yes, she said some very hurtful, disrespectful, cutting things about, generalizing black men. That much is for certain. Yet and still, I don't celebrate anybody's death. I did not even celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. Did I cry? Will I cry? No, I didn't, and I won't, because it's not a person that I'm close to. I think that even a person that I was close to that had the views that she had, I think I could still find a way to find sorrow and cry for that person that I was close to, that was a family member. But for someone that that was someone that I did not know that generalized me as a black man who's never been to jail, who's never gone out and embarrassed anybody. To put me into a light that makes me look like, I'm a part of that. It's just everyday black men wake up to embarrass us, but I don't celebrate on neither occasion, whether it's somebody that I'm close to or don't know at all. I don't celebrate what's happened, not at all. Let's keep going here.
Really about, because it is bigger than one trip, one villa, one man, and one woman. Ashley Janae built her life from the ground up. She did not come from wealth or connections or a head start of any kind. She came from New Jersey with drive, a willingness to bet on herself, and the kind of energy that rooms could not contain. She moved to a new city on a whim of friendship and turned it into a whole life. She modeled alongside some of the biggest names in the industry. She built an audience of real people who followed her because she made something out of nothing and never pretended otherwise. She was, by every account from everyone who knew her, full of life in a way that is rare and impossible to fake, and she deserved to come home. But there is something about this story that goes beyond Ashley herself, and it needs to be said plainly. When black women in America build visible lives, put themselves on public platforms, and enter relationships with powerful men, the stakes of those relationships are rarely discussed honestly. The power that comes with money, with connections, with the kind of resources Joe McCann had, that power does not disappear when two people are alone in a room. It follows them in, and when something goes wrong, that same power, the access, the influence, the ability to shape a narrative before anyone else can, does not disappear either. Look, how did we get here? A woman celebrated her engagement on one side of the world, while comments warning her about the man she was with had been sitting on her page for months.
I don't
Nobody,
put a lot of stock
not the
into
platforms,
that.
not the people who saw those comments, not anyone with the ability to intervene, did anything.
Who were those
She did not even respond to them, which means either she saw them and did not take them seriously, or she never saw them at all. And now they are sitting there, permanently attached to posts she will never be able to delete, read by people who are only now understanding what they might have been warning about. That is the part of this story that should keep people up at night. There is also the matter of what happens to black Americans who die on foreign soil. It is a conversation that comes up every few years when a story like this breaks through to mainstream attention and then fades out again before anything structural changes. The reality is that the American government's ability to protect its citizens abroad has limits, real limits. The embassy can assist, it can advocate, it can monitor. But when a foreign country's legal system is running the investigation, the family of the deceased is at the mercy of that system's pace, priorities, and transparency. And that pace, in cases involving foreign nationals and wealthy individuals, has a history of moving in favor of the person with the most power in the room. Ashley's family was navigating all of that. The grief, the distance, the jurisdictional walls, the conflicting reports, the absence of official answers, while also managing a story that had gone completely viral online. They were doing it with more composure and more dignity than anyone should be expected to carry. They put out a statement. They asked for trust in the process. They kept saying her name, and they kept waiting for answers that had not come. It makes no sense that the person who was supposed to love her the most was the one who never called. It makes no sense that a woman who posted her joy, her life, her love, so openly and so proudly was reduced to a passport emergency contact notification. It makes no sense that the comments on page, the ones that said get out, the ones that said he is going to harm you, are still sitting there, visible to anyone who looks, while the people who should be answering for what happened in that villa are nowhere to be found in any official record. And yet here we are. So what I want to leave you with is this.
Being able to change people's lives is really the best part of the job. We change their ability to chew and eat the things that they love, and we really just change their self-esteem and
relationships, where the power is not equal, rarely advertise that fact loudly. They look like proposals in the middle of a safari. They look like luxury villas and birthday celebrations, and one-word replies that say, me, and forever. They look like everything a life is supposed to look like from the outside, and the person inside it is the last one anyone would expect to need saving, because she looks so happy, because she is posting, because she is glowing, because she said she is exactly where she needs to be. Pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention when someone who loves someone else keeps that person invisible. Pay attention when the relationship only exists on one person's terms, in one person's spaces, acknowledged only on one person's timeline. Asymmetry in a relationship is rarely just about information or finances. It shows up in who holds the power, who controls the story, and ultimately, in cases like this, who gets to walk away and say what happened. Ashley Janae was 31 years old, New Jersey raised, Miami built. She was a woman who bet on herself with nothing more than a road trip and a willingness to stay, and she turned that into a career, a brand, a life people admired. She got a ring, she got a birthday. She told the world she was exactly where she needed to be. Chapter 31 was supposed to be a beginning. Instead, it became the last thing she ever posted. Rest in peace, Ashley Janae. Your name will not be forgotten. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you feel something, then you are exactly who this channel was built for. Shadowed crimes. TV exists because these stories deserve to be told. Because the women at the center of them deserve to be remembered as more than a headline. Because the people who love them deserve to know that the world did not just scroll past. If you are new here, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because every week...
Well, folks, again, great job done by Shadowed Crimes TV. I think that there's a lot of angles when it comes to a story. There's a lot of different angles to come from, and all that we do as I come from an era as a '90s teen. Going into the new millennium, becoming an adult in the new millennium. It was more about building in the '90s. That's how guys would talk about, like, having conversations, moving, forging bonds, moving ahead, creating ideas, and moving on those ideas. We call that back, back in the '90s, building. We build. Now they say chop it up. But see, that's what I tell people, like, y'all can chop it up. I build, bro. Like, when I talk to people, we're not chopping it up, but we chopping up. See, it connects to that whole, like, drug culture, chopping it up. Nah, bro, we're building over here. We're building. Like, when these conversations are building, every time we have a conversation, we need to build on something. It's not just having empty words and empty things being said. It's really building on what you're saying. I'm saying on certain ideas and certain thoughts and certain perspectives. Building on that. That's what we're doing. But anyway, that's pretty much to say that it's just looking at it's just looking at a lot of different angles, and they're coming at a very interesting angle. The information is there, but they're coming from also an emotional angle. Like, why wouldn't he be the one to call and let them know that something is wrong? Why wouldn't he? That to me, that does say a lot. You don't want to call her family and what I'm saying, you don't want to have to hear their anguish, their frustration, their trauma, their distress about something, about their daughter not, not coming home alive. You don't want to have to deal with that. So you just kind of, and not only do you not deal with that, but then you go online and just start posting on bullshit. Like, and then, what we're not saying is that by the time they got to this point where he's proposing, he's taking these trips and he's doing all this stuff, he had lost somewhere in the ballpark of about $100 million. And we get up here, we get engaged, and all of a sudden there is a big chaotic fight that other people staying, in nearby villas and nearby rooms noticed, heard, had to report. This is what's happening. And could it be because she found out? Could it be because she found out and he was betting on her lifestyle, her money, her presence to kind of keep them going while he figures out the next move? She's instantly triggered, realizing that she's being put in a position to possibly front him while making him look like her savior to the soft life. She might have gotten enraged. She might have been saying things, folks. I mean, again, I'm just speculating. I don't know anything. This right here is speculation. I'm just saying, as a person who minored in psychology, never got a degree, by the way. But a person who was definitely prepared when I got accepted in Norfolk State to minor in psychology, along with majoring in business management and entrepreneurship. I kind of felt like knowing the mind of the customer and people you and other people you might work with and connect with is the best way to kind of is a great attribute to have in trying to run your own business and be an entrepreneur. So I just feel like in that situation, like what would you say motive could be in this situation? Well, motive is you had a young girl thinking that thinking that she had a red carpet rolled out to the soft life, finding out that this guy has lost somewhere around $100 million. Things is looking kind of bleak, and he's looking for her to kind of keep things afloat while makes the next move and works the next possible investment. She's enraged. She can't believe that she's being put in a position, and I'm pretty sure a woman like her is aware of Rose, is aware of Rose and Brett, and aware of being put in a position to where she looks like Rose, the queen, the king of queens, or the queen of kings, or whatever. So, and she's upset, possibly willing to call things off, go back and let people know, about what's really going on with him and everything like that. He couldn't have that. He's already kind of trying his best to kind of the kind of smooth things over, change things up, kind of come with a different business identity to try to reel back in possible investors, possible interests, and for her to go back out and for her to go out there and to brand his name behind bullshit and fakery and really being broke and things like that. It's that's something that he could not have. So that's my theory. I just wanted to react to this, folks. It was very interesting, but there's a lot to this. I think Shadowed Crimes TV, they definitely went with some facts for sure, and definitely brought some things out that other people weren't even speaking about. That a lot of her come up, a lot of what was built, a lot of what built her presence up on social media and as an influencer was due to her association with male with black men, with rappers, with entertainers. A lot of that was built by her association with them. And a lot of time you could definitely see the differences. Either the blonde dye, either dyeing her hair blonde or a blonde wig and things of this nature. You definitely seen a lot more thirst trap videos. I mean, a lot more thirst trap, pictures and things like that she was when she was moving her way up. So I'm just letting you know, folks. Yeah, just letting you know. These are the things, and it's very interesting that we don't go into what her home life was like, because from what her own social media posts dictate, that her mother was dating white men as well. So if her home life was still humble, she wasn't with her mother, wasn't with her father anymore. She was dating white men like her and everything like that. So but things weren't going well apparently. That she just felt like she could just take this whirlwind bet on herself from New Jersey all the way down to Miami, Florida. And just, yeah, like I said, climb the ladder using black men to climb the ladder. And if you look at Hollywood, you see that a lot. That seat at the table planning, where black actresses will basically they will connect with notable black actors. They will work their way up, and instead of forging a place for themselves, they feel like the way to really kind of prove themselves is by being connected to a notable white actor. And more now, especially in a more romantic situation. So you even see in Hollywood, when you go watch movies, it's perpetuated in the movies that this is what the ultimate goal is. So, and even beyond that, I mean, it's like vetting people. It's like vetting people overall, just people, getting to know who they are, what their real individual history is, instead of betting on a stereotype. I think it's on both sides. I think it's I think it's balancing out, not going so heavy on one stereotype and being willing to vet the other stereotype a little bit. Honestly, just being honest about it. I don't celebrate this woman's demise. I do not, because that is immature. What did what she said on social media was hurtful. Absolutely. It was what I'm saying, it was a sweeping generalization of black men, saying that black men saying that black men are Mr. What you're doing, and white men, and older white men, by the way, older white men are be ready at 8. And this is what we have. This is what we have here. And so I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to say. I don't, like I said, except I don't celebrate it. I really don't. I wish there was more that I could say. My condolences to the family for sure. I would just caution anybody, folks, just individually work with the people that you're working with. Gain trust with the people that you're dating individually. Don't base anything on a generalized stereotype that makes you think that they're trustworthy based on that stereotype. Just That's for anyone, folks. That's just for anyone. Make sure you know that if somebody that and preferences and things like that, make sure you know that these aren't just people that are trying to prey on that. Really look at that history. Not just look at the history that they've dated black people before, but how did those relationships go compared to the ones where they didn't date black people? Just think about it. Just think all of that. I think, in many ways, I'm planting the seed for us, but other people can use this and basically rework it to where they're looking at it in their own light. So just be safe, people. Trust but verify. That's one of my catchphrases, one of my cliches. Trust but verify, folks. Have a great one.